This is Akoth Otieno, and you're listening to Impact Chai, a podcast dedicated to the new generation of makers. Hi everyone, with me today is Peter Oshobor, the founder and creative director of Oshobor, an eponymous design label that's a love letter to Benin City and his deeply personal relationship with his father. Today we talk about the importance of mentorship in the African fashion industry, how family shapes us, and our shared love for clothes and fashion. Welcome to the show, Peter. I recently found out you ran a modeling agency before you started your own brand. I want to know a little more about that.
Oh my God. Okay, so, I got into the university in 2015. And, honestly, I did not start modeling because of something I had in mind when coming to school. I was just coming to school to study and then leave. But as situations may have had it at the time, it wasn't easy to, be a student. It wasn't easy to get money. So it started off as a mistake, honestly, because I was just making, accessories. I was making footwears. I was making caps. I was making some accessories with this Nigerian fabric we call Ankara. Then I pieced them together because I wanted to start selling them to make money as a student. I pieced them together. A photographer contacted me because he had seen me advertise them on Instagram, and he said he wanted me to come for a shoot. So I went with my best friend and his cousin. We went to do the shoot. And while we were shooting, it was really nice. There were so many eyes on us. And then I had about 5 people approach us that day and say, "Oh, I love your modeling agency. I want to join." In my head, I'm like, "It ain't no modeling agency, girl. Number, in case I find anyone, I'll let you know." So I was going home and my best friend was like, he looked at me. I looked at him and I was like, and then we just said, "Are we thinking the same thing?" And apparently we were. So we got home and we had the conversation. I thought about how I was going to start off because I had no knowledge about it. So I went online, I followed modeling agencies, I just started, learning. So basically I learned on the job. I contacted them, I started training, I groomed models, I affiliated myself with some modeling agencies. And I think that was how I started. So I think throughout the 3 years of my being a model manager, I trained over 100 models but it just didn't feel right at the end of the day. It just didn't seem like it was for me because in becoming a model manager, I had to learn about designers, I had to learn about fashion because that's like the biggest, way to book jobs for my models.
So it's safe to say your first entry into fashion was through the modeling industry, I suppose. But what were you studying in college at the time?
I studied English and literature because I just knew I wanted to go to school to study English. I was so in love with English and literature. I love people that speak English so fluently. Like when I just see you, your accent is good, you're speaking so good. I just open my mouth and I'm like, oh my God, don't stop, just continue. So I just loved English. And then I came to school. I said I was going to study English. I wanted to teach English. I just wanted to be a secondary school teacher, honestly. I wasn't, I knew I was, aiming at the stars, but I felt like, being a secondary school teacher is more than enough. I wanted to impact, I wanted to teach, I wanted, children to have the passion I have for, proper spoken English. So I felt like, the best way to do it is not in the university level, is to start from that, that's, I think secondary school is the part where they get to fall in love genuinely with whatever career path and then follow it squarely in the university. So I was like, okay, I think this is the best place to be. So even if I get an opportunity to be in university, I honestly told myself I was going to turn it down. But well, as you may have it, I'm here trying to use the English in my fashion brand. So I mean, I think it's a win-win situation in the end.
The brand is largely around storytelling, and that comes through.
Yes.
When you're talking about being able to put children in this position where they can have their passion, what was your childhood like? What was it like growing
Oof.
up in Edo State?
Okay, so now here's the funny thing. I never found myself in Edo State for as long as 1 week while growing up. I was born in Lagos. I grew up in Lagos. I lived all my life in Lagos until when I, came to the university to write my entrance examination, and then I got in, and then I now, moved to Benin because of school. So before then, I was in Lagos. And for the better part of my growing up in Lagos, honestly, it wasn't plain smooth sailing. It wasn't easy, but I'm telling you, I would never trade it for anything in this world. Growing up, in the midst of my siblings, we for my father, I have, you know, 5 other siblings, and then I have 4 half siblings. So that makes us 10. So growing up with the knowledge that you have, like, 9 other siblings, even though just 4 of them are around you, and then there are so many numbers, like there are, I think, 7 of them before me. So some persons will feel like because there are so many, the expectations would have dropped. There are so many people ahead of me to make them proud. But I think I still felt the pressure. I knew I needed to make my father proud because it seemed like I was understanding that no matter the number, parents would not be satisfied until every single one of you make them proud. So I challenged myself, honestly, to be better than all my siblings. I literally told myself I was going to be better than all my siblings. And I tried my best to put in the work. My father would talk about how none of my siblings were prefects in secondary school. I told myself I was going to be a prefect, even if it was, timekeeper. And then because being a timekeeper was like the least prefectship position you hold in secondary school. But then I got to SS1, I started debating. So I was like my school's #1 debater. Anywhere they were going for competitions, I was at the forefront of it, speaking and, everything, being all dramatic and gesticulating and bringing home the award. So in SS2, I was surprised when my name came out as the senior prefect, as the head boy. I was like, from where? Excuse me, I'm not the smartest of them all, so how? But apparently we went, head on, and then I got it. I got it to my greatest surprise. And first of all, I was just concerned about making my father proud. So I was happy, but I didn't know I was going to be able to do it. But I did it regardless. And to whom it may concern, I'm one of the best senior prefects my secondary school has ever produced. Now, let's leave that aside. So I went home and I told my father, Daddy, I'm the senior prefect. And my father was like, okay. And I was like, I did this for you. What is okay? He wasn't happy because I think at the time, he had already fallen out of expectations. He wasn't expecting anything anymore from anybody. So anything that happens, okay, that's fine. Not until when I was graduating. And then I gave my outgoing speech. My proprietor called me back and showered me with all the praises. You see, when somebody goes to school to study English, to learn English, is different from when they actually study English. This boy came, he studied, he did this, he grabbed my attention. Oh my God. And he gave me a lot of money that day. And he was like, who is your father? Fun fact, my father was a PTA chairman. So he knew my father, he knew me, but he never knew a father and son. And then I told him, Mr. Oshobor. He said, unbelievable. Oh my God, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That was the first time my father now became proud. And I was happy. I was like, oh, so this man needed someone else to acknowledge it before he could be. I mean, it meant a lot to me. So
over the conversations we've had, the constant story has always been that your brand is largely influenced by your father. And the whole basis of the basically your relationship between you and your father. But let me take it back a bit. I come from a very huge family, at least by my standards, we are 7. And part of how I have had to form my identity is by carving out the things I see within my siblings and deciding, I want to be this, I don't want to be that. I love this about them, I don't like this about them. And I was wondering if that was the same case with you. Did this idea of having your siblings, all these 9 of them, and some of them older than you, obviously, because you're the 8th one, did that in one way affect who you are right now, especially from an identity standpoint?
I think that it played a major role in who I am now. I think somebody, yes, my dad asked me sometime, he said, how did you end up becoming very different? How do you think that your environment shaped you while growing up? And then I don't think I had to think about it so much because I believe that every child, no matter how I just believe that every child, we all have a spirit of discernment. We can discern, we can tell what is good and what is not good. So I grew up, seeing everything laid out in front of me. I would see what my parents complain about. I would see what society complains about. I would see what, the church complains about. So I look at all these things and I told myself, I picked what I wanted. I told myself I wasn't going to be this. Now, good thing is, before I even go to the church, before I go to the society, I picked from what was closest to me, my family. I saw my siblings right from the first to the very one before me. And I told myself, okay, so I see what everyone is or what everyone stands for. That was like a factor, yes, that really helped me in growing.
So the year is 2019, right? And you're deciding to walk out of the modeling industry while also trying to get through your last year of college. Walk me through the process between then and the genesis of the brand. How was that?
Oh my God, the process was Jesus is Lord. That was the first time I experienced depression in my life,
Oh,
honestly.
sorry.
So at the time I was in school, I was a class rep like in university from 100 level to 300 level final year. Then in final year, I dropped the position because it was too demanding for me. We had to plan final year week. I had my brand, and it was final year, so I felt, oh, I was going to take it seriously, my business. So I told them in my class I was going to drop out. Like I was going to drop being the class rep. So my assistant, took over. At the time, my classmates felt like I was making millions. Truth be told, maybe, not maybe. I sat down think about it. I'm like, oh, if I actually, calculated how much I made at intervals, like separately, put them together, I made, a reasonable amount. But at a go, it was never like that. So, but they believed in me. They thought I had my life figured out. But I also thought the same until I was in my final year. I knew that I did not have my life figured out. So to me, as a model manager, my success solely depends on my models. If they're hardworking, when they book jobs and all of that. I knew that as much as I'm big on being responsible, I wanted to be responsible for myself. I wanted to, do something. And when I fail, I know I failed. When I win, I know I won. I don't want it to be, oh, my models failed and I suffer for it. I didn't want to have to blame anybody for whatever failure or successes. So I told myself, I, I, I wasn't going to close it at first until I started experiencing some, difficulties with my project supervisor. So they gave me a supervisor at the time that, I thought was a good person because I didn't have any prior knowledge about him. Now I
Yeah.
get close to him, I start going to meet him for my project, and then this man would intentionally delay me. I get there, I'm the first person because I was the first person to ever meet him, to introduce myself to him. Others came the same day. We met him, we just chatted, he collected our numbers, added us on WhatsApp. Then the next time I went, I was the first to get there, he didn't attend to me. Second time, he didn't attend to me. Third time, he didn't attend to me. He would leave me there, attend to others, and say, okay, Peter, let's go home. And then I asked him one day, what's going on? I don't understand. He said, oh, when my mates are going to class, to learn, I'm always going to do photo shoots. So it's obvious that I'm not ready to leave this school. I was like, excuse me, sir. I beg your pardon. I hope you know that this is how I fend for myself in school. I literally do all these things, to get money to pay my fees, to do everything. So if I don't do this, how will I be here? He said, that's your business. And this man delayed me for months. One day, my friend asked me, Peter, you're in what chapter? I said, I'm in chapter 1. He said, why are you deceiving yourself? You're in chapter 0. It was depressing because my mates had finished, they had defended their project, they had gone home for holiday. I was still in school, battling with chapter 0, according to him.
Yeah.
I just told myself, you know what, this is the end of it. I was going to travel back to Lagos, just go and clear my head. I went home and I was so down. I changed my number, I blocked everybody, I cut off social media. And then I just started, thinking. I was drowning. I was drowning. So I reached out to my models. I explained to them, and some of them just started saying nasty things. I told myself, see, the people I was fighting for at the time weren't even concerned if I was, if my mental health was okay. So I just told myself I was going to close up, go to Benin, learn how to sew. I mean, fashion started coming to my mind because of, everything I learned about LVMH. So basically, it was LVMH, Womack Prize, these international competitions that caught my attention. I'm like, Nigerian designers apply for this and they go far, they win money, they get popular, opportunities come from there. So I just told myself I want to be a designer just for these international competitions. So for me to get there, I need to build my portfolio. For me to build my portfolio, my collections have to be good. I need to be able to tell stories. I need to be able to capture people's attention. 2020, I said I was going to, further learn how to sew better, some other things. I started in February, and then in March, April, the pandemic, gave us a hard blow. So just basically 2 months when I had planned throughout the end of the year, I spent just 2 months. And immediately after the lockdown was lifted, because I had planned that I was going to release my collection in November, it was already too late to go back to learn. So I just did cut and join. I just did wuru to the answer. And then I just released the collection. I wasn't impressed, honestly. But I just wanted to release a collection. I wanted to start. I wanted to press that button and say, okay, yes, you have started. And that was how I started.
I'm glad that didn't stop you, really, because I mean, we're here now. So that's quite beautiful, and it's a really good story. While you were thinking of this is the direction I want to take my brand, what were some of the things that were the definitive factors for what you wanted Oshobor to be? What stories did you want to tell through Oshobor?
Okay, so when I started, my brand was initially Dawn, 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 because that was the name they called me when I was in school. It was Dawn. It wasn't Oshobor. The story wasn't this story. I don't think I had a direction.
Is there a meaning behind Dawn?
Okay, so
I love a good story with a nickname.
Hey, God, oh, you want me to expose myself? Okay, so basically, I was in a relationship and I was given the name Dawn.
It gets juicier.
And I liked it. So I moved the name out of the relationship to my life. So wherever I was putting my name, I'll put Oshobor Peter Dawn. I threw my main name, I threw my biological name to me, name that somebody gave me just for love. Anyways, I did that, and before I knew it, the name spread like wildfire. So everybody liked it. So when I started my brand, I had my logo, my label, my packaging, everything was done. And then there was no direction. Honestly, I was trying to figure out an identity. I was trying to figure out like a brand ethos, everything. I wasn't getting it. I felt like, I could, if I continue with consistency, I could carve it. I could, make them understand. But it was difficult. So 1 year or 1 year plus into the brand, I went for a competition in Nigeria. I won competition for 10 designers. So it was supposed to be across Africa, but they now limited it to Nigeria. And then we had, mentors like Style Infidel, Godson Okaibu, Orange Culture, and some of them there. So they mentored us, and I was the first to lead the competition. But then again, during the course of the 2 weeks that we were there, they came in to have conversations with us, directors and all that. And then we had a conversation with Godson Okaibu, who was telling us about, he's a renowned writer, fashion writer. He was telling everybody, the faults in their brands, where he thought that they were going wrong and they needed, advice or something. And then he just wasn't saying anything to me. I wasn't understanding. I was like, can you talk to me, please? He was like, no, you don't worry. I don't have your time. Talk to me. And I said, I'm trying so hard to be what I am not. He now said, if you look very well into your brand, it's indigenous. You have a direction. You look like you have a direction. But why are you bearing down? Why are you forcing yourself to be international when you can be indigenous and international people will come for you? Jesus, it's really hit. So in my head, I'm like, okay, it makes sense. Right on the spot, he now said, can't you look for some other name to use, like to bear or something? And then I remembered, the Nigerian brands that I know with indigenous names. And then I looked at myself, what indigenous name can I use? I thought about it. I'm like, okay, so over the years, my father has shown me, incessant love. He has been supportive, even when I was bearing down, when I started the agency and all of that, when I was running my modeling agency and all of that. So I mean, I could build a brand that is centered around the love that exists between myself and my father, because it's not something that I really see brands talk about, right? I'm in touch with my emotions, which is good. So I think I should incorporate that. I'm from Edo State. Okay, so what's the name? Okay, Oshobor. Because my father has always insisted that we would all be Oshobor, our children be Oshobor. We'll keep passing it because he has been passing Oshobor himself and his elder brother. Every other of his siblings, they've changed their names. So I'm like, oh, he's going to be so happy. He's going to be so proud of me. Then on the spot, I told him I found a name. And they all looked at me like, already? One of them asked me, don't be too quick to make decisions. I said, there are just some advices that when you hear and they just seem right, I don't think there's any need to think twice about it. And then the next day he came, I showed him my logo. He said, calm down. I said, no, I'm not calming down. because I was preparing the collection before I came to this house. As soon as I'm leaving, I'm going to shoot the collection. So if I must do that, I must do it with this name. So I need to get my story straight. I need to get everything straight before I leave this house. He looked at me, and at that time, I knew that I was, will I say overzealous? I don't know, but I just knew that there was a fire in me that was burning, and I just didn't want to quench that fire. So I started Oshobor like that, and then it was not, honestly, I wasn't impressed. But when I went for Lagos Fashion Week, no, when I got selected for Green Access first, made me realize that, oh, I was on the right track. Because I had applied for Green Access the year before with Dawn, as Dawn, with the brand's aesthetic, and I wasn't selected. So now I'm applying to show about this new brand aesthetic, and I'm accepted. It means that this is good. So I come on Lagos Fashion Week, I show my collection, and the very first thing I hear is, oh, masquerade designer. I'm like, yes, we have an identity. Yes, we have an ethos. Yes, they can identify us anywhere. Yeah. That was when I knew that I had established something.
Moving from you having had someone to tell you what they thought about what your brand is or what it should ideally be, to then getting into Green Access. My next question would be, what do you think is the significance of mentorship to young brands in Africa?
I think that...
Then move it to, what was your experience at Green Access? What did that look like, and how did it change your branding?
Okay. I think that the importance of mentorship should be overemphasized. We talk about how, I hear people say, oh, mentorship programs and all of that. But in the real sense of it, do we get these mentors to actually mentor people? It's important that growing brands, in fact, even children, as children just individually, they need mentors. So imagine you trying to take on the world with a brand and you don't have somebody to direct you or point out these things. Now, people need to also accept that, saying that one is a mentor doesn't mean the person needs to be an expert in your field. You just need somebody that, can give you a sense of direction, somebody that can look, from another perspective and tell you what he or she is seeing. Now, we have people in the industry who are experts, they are big and they have what it takes to be mentors. But then some of them go as far as saying, oh, they are mentors. But do they really mentor people? Being a mentor goes beyond, oh, I like what you are doing, keep it up, I'm proud of you. Because honestly, these little comments mean a lot to, growing brands. For a big person to tell me, oh, you are doing well, I like it. Yes, it means a lot. That's enough motivation. But then it goes beyond that. I want you to come and give me constructive criticism and tell me, I think this is what it is. I'm obviously going to take it. Even if I'm not going to take everything hook, line, and sinker, I'm going to, filter what works for me, what is not going to seem like I'm putting pressure on myself, and I'll get it done. But we are clamoring mentorship. I had a friend that said she was in a photography, program. She got mentorship from one photographer, and he was supposed to, mentor her for a year, and he called her just once in the year. And the only call was, I'm coming to where you are, book a this, book a that, gather models, gather that, and we're going to do a shoot.
All right.
I'm like, what the hell? So that's you mentoring me already. So, I think that for one to say I'm a mentor, one should be ready to put in the work. Because to me, there's joy in teaching, there's joy in impacting. And that's why I wanted to be a teacher in the first place. And I think I'm still going to be a teacher regardless. I think that's my retirement plan. So yes, I think that, when you say you're a mentor, try to put in the work, because in affecting lives, you're also affecting yourself positively. And then moving over to Green Access. Green Access was a dream come true. When I started Oshobor, but when I started, Dawn, my fashion brand, I told myself, I'm going to be on Lagos Fashion Week regardless, no matter what. I'll be on all the fashion shows. And then for Lagos Fashion Week, I gave myself, when they say 5-year goal, 10-year goal, I gave myself 10 years. I was like, the next 10 years, I'm going to be on Lagos Fashion Week. And I was on Lagos Fashion Week my second year as a brand. 2022, right? Yes, I was on Lagos my second year as a brand. And it was a milestone. Like, Jesus is Lord. I skipped from the first step to the 100th step. That was how it was for me. I went there, I had some rude people on the group that I was looking forward to meeting. And when I met them, they were the sweetest people ever.
Yeah,
You are not, you're one of them. So I don't know how we ended up beefing each other, because we had this conversation where Sazad was like, "Oh, I didn't really like you at first because I felt like you talk too much." I was like, "What the hell?" And then it was funny to me because my twin brother was always telling me when we're having our meetings and I will ask questions or give one contribution, like, Jim, don't you think you're talking too much? I'm like, I know I'm a talkative, that's fine, but I mean, should I not talk? But yes, regardless, I got on Green Access and I met the amazing people, the most amazing people ever. So my first fashion competition, I made friends, but for Green Access, I made a family. It was so good that I don't know, the fact that we were not all from the same country, and up till now we still keep close contact. We're still very much in each other's lives. It means that Green Access gave me a gift, and it's one gift that I never ever ever would take for granted. So if not for anything, of course, I appreciate Green Access for everything, the opportunities, Lagos Fashion Week, everything, but especially for the people that Green Access brought my way, honestly. Green Access I was at Woven Threads last 2 months, and I never even knew that, Omoyemi Akerele knew me personally. I never knew. So it made me realize that, they gave us an opportunity and they were watching. Because like I said about mentorship, it's one thing to give people opportunities, another thing to follow them squarely. It made me realize that Lagos Fashion Week gave us an opportunity, and Lagos Fashion Week is spearheaded by her. Now, it wasn't just Lagos Fashion Week that knew us or that understood us. She was there sitting and sipping her tea, watching us.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
It's that follow through that I particularly loved. And also just the fact that
Yes.
talking about the idea of family. For me, just stopped being one of those, we bring people together and then that's just it. Because there have been collaborations that have been born from Green Access. There is immense support. I mean, I'm here on a podcast with you today. So I think that in a way has changed, continues to change us every day. Not just how we look at our brands or how we grow, but how we also develop on a very intimate, personal level. Oh, I am loving this conversation. So
thank you.
What exciting things do you have in plan for Oshobor?
I'm working on my very first biggest collection. That's how I want to put it, because this collection is very tedious. This collection is very promising. This collection is so I'm going out full on couture with this collection. I've always talked about how my brand is based on the love that exists in fathers and sons. I want to explore my rich cultural heritage, but I've not really done that. So with this, my next collection, I'm exploring my cultural heritage, Edo State, our designs, our outfits, everything, my tribe. So I'm doing that, and I'm so excited for it. I've started the collection now, even though I'm showing it in October, because it's a whole lot of work. Honestly, it's crazy, but that's what's in store now. I
know, coming up with a collection is usually crazy, especially if it is full of research, as we should be, really. Earlier on, I was having a conversation with, I don't know if you know Peter Taylor.
My guy. Peter Taylor is my king.
I love Peter. So we were having a conversation around how most brands now refuse to refer history. Is it possible to come up with a collection that is not properly researched or grounded in something that is just beyond the clothes themselves? And how do we then add meaning to clothes? So when you're talking about this aspect of getting into the intricacies of your heritage, I think I'm kind of excited about it. But also because, I love your work. I really love your work. And we were talking about
Thank you.
What 30 looks would look like. Oh, I can't wait.
I just pray you'll be in Nigeria to see the collection, like communicate with you personally, because I think seeing videos would not suffice, honestly. I really want you to be in Nigeria, so we're going to be backstage together. You see, oh my God, I don't want to be overly excited now.
No, if the last backstage was anything to go by, I would love to be in Fashion Week this year.
Just be around, please.
I can't wait to see you. And more importantly,
I can't wait to see you too.
Seeing as you have exciting things coming up, I have a lot to look forward to.
Yes.
Every good thing has to come to an end. So,
Thank
given the
you.
premise of the podcast is largely we sit down and have a cup of tea. So, my usual question would be, first of all, do you love tea?
I love tea. I love a rich tea. I don't know if it's a thing there, but in Nigeria there's something we call a rich tea. So a rich tea is a tea with plenty of milk, plenty of chocolates, and maybe a little or plenty sugar, depending on how you like it. But I like my sugar. So yes, I like a rich tea. But then my tea has to be hot because I don't like cold tea. I think cold tea upsets my stomach, so I'd rather take hot tea. But yes, it has to burn my tongue to be D, C. So that's my kind of tea. And I'm sipping my tea right now, even though it's cold because I've been talking. But I'm just going to sip a little.
I like how you've embodied the spirit of it.
I mean, I knew we had to have a conversation over tea, so I got my tea ready.
I know. But it was so good having you. I hope once the collection is out, we get to sit down and talk about it at some point later in.
That's why I'm praying you'll be in Nigeria. So we're going to have this one-on-one interview.
I look forward
Thank
to
you very
all the
much.
good things Oshobor has in store.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
love
Thank
you
you.
very
See
much.
you soon. I love you too, babes. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. A special thanks to our visual designer Kevin Malombe from GMT+3. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, please subscribe. And if you're able, consider making a donation to our Buy Me a Coffee account, which goes a long way in helping us make more of these. For more content, follow us on Instagram at ImpactChai.